So 2023 is my year of wonder.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
2023 is the year of wonder.
Yes.
I
So
love it.
we are throwing in as many world wonders as we can of all the kinds, but I have to do the 7 core wonders. Hi, lovelies. Welcome to Flirting with Travel. I'm Lexi.
And I'm Misty.
And today we are talking about the 7 world wonders. So here's how this all came about.
Okay.
My goal for this year, really at the start of it, was just to sell all my stuff and go full-time nomad.
Right.
And I had high hopes of doing that, but you know, life just takes you in different directions. You have plans. What is it? What is the phrase?
Phrase alert.
Man makes plans and God laughs. That's exactly
It's
just
my whole life right now.
Yes, I was going to say that is my entire life. So it didn't go that direction. And then we were talking about the world wonders, and I've seen a few of them, and it became a thing of, like, what's the new goal? Because obviously I did the 30 countries by 30 years old, but now it feels like, oh, you need something else. And so I thought, oh, I should do, like, go see all the 7 world wonders. And I was like, that's not that big of a challenge, which is a light flex, but it's not. And I thought, here's the real challenge. All 7 world wonders in one calendar year.
So the challenge that you're putting yourself on is now starting from January 2023 to the end of December 2023.
Yes.
Okay.
And that means I am going to have to repeat the ones I've already seen, but that's okay because, you know, I went before, like, camera phones were, like, true. I mean, obviously camera phones were a thing.
But, like, your phone was a DSLR.
Yeah. And people weren't as serious about, like, getting dressed. Because I think about when we went to Mexico and we went to Chichen Itza.
I think we just went. Like,
Yeah.
we were just there.
We were just like regular tourists wearing like your fanny packs and your white sneakers. Whereas now, if I go, I'm like gonna put my outfit together and try and get a professional photographer to go with me and like hit some angles. I'm gonna be like the prettiest person there. All the locals that are trying to sell you stuff are like, what is she doing?
You're going to be like, I need that fan because it's authentic.
Right.
Do you think, okay, well, how many of the world wonders, of the 7 world wonders, have you already done?
3.
Three of the 7, and those are?
So I've been to Beijing to see the Great Wall of China. I've been to Cancun and we went to Chichen Itza and to Rome to see the Colosseum.
So the other 4 that are on the list are?
Okay, the Taj Mahal in India, Machu Picchu in Peru, Christ the Redeemer in Brazil.
Okay.
That's 3. Oh. Last one. Why is it Petra in Jordan?
I kind of find I'm not sure who created this list because sometimes I feel like Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, how is that a world wonder? Is it because of its religious impact?
It has to be due to the engineering. That it has to be like something. I guess I need to read up on like what makes them special because I'm going to be totally honest. Some of them I do find to be underwhelming. Like the Great Wall of China, of all of the 7 wonders, that's the only one that I'm like, yeah, truly wondrous.
No, Petra is too. When you go see Petra, you're going to be like,
okay,
that is dope. Petra is literally etched in sand and it's from like 7 AD or something. And it's still there. Like the Treasury building is still etched in sand. I do wonder if they like keep it up.
I mean, you have to.
And it's gorgeous. Like you walk through these. What is the place in Utah that everybody goes to that has those beautiful?
Like the arches.
Yeah, like and you go through the stones and they're really pretty. You went.
Yeah. In Utah? Oh no, I went to Antelope Canyon in Arizona.
I thought it was in Utah. Okay, so imagine Antelope Canyon, walking through that to then get to this expansive city that used to be, and it's still kind of there. Okay. I feel like that's definitely a world wonder.
Okay.
So I'm always curious. I wonder if Chichen Itza made it over the pyramid because Chichen Itza had that whole waterway system. But didn't it kill everybody because they were drinking water that came through lime?
So the reason why the pyramids in Egypt are not on the New World Wonders because they're a wonder of the ancient world. Like, I'm just going to break this down for you. There's a ton of different world wonder lists. So you have the world wonders of the ancient world, and those were the original ones. They were actually selected practically like BC.
Okay.
And so of the 7, the only one to survive are the pyramids in Egypt.
Okay.
And I think that's for me, that's something I didn't understand, because I was like, how could the pyramids not be a world wonder? They're just not of this era, which is almost makes them more impressive. If you think like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, like those are practically a rumor at this point. Like people say they exist, but there's no real evidence. Or you have like the statue of Zeus in Greece. I think it got hit by lightning. Then you have, what is it? The Temple of Artemis was burned down in Greece. You have the statue of, I want to say Theseus in
Greece. I was like, man, they really had the list.
They would, I mean, who do you think made this list? It's probably a bunch of Grecians. You're like, okay.
Right.
But with that in mind, a lot of them were all destroyed. And so the pyramids are probably the most impressive thing just because they've survived.
Right.
We talked about this phrase. What is it?
Phrase alert.
Everything fears time, but time fears the pyramids. Which is funny because the pyramids are crumbling now.
I mean, but they are like, they've built all the way up to the edge of them. Like if they could build and build grass, they would. But that entire economy is really based off of tourism.
I believe it. So I've never seen the pyramids. I have not been to Egypt, but I do feel like there's something that becomes missing when you get too close into those things.
Right.
Because I think about like Angkor Wat in Cambodia. To me, that should be, how is that not a world wonder?
I mean, it is pretty dope.
It's massive.
Anything. None of the Southeast Asian like temples have made the list.
Because who's picking it? Like, I feel like Taj Mahal only made it because the British were already in India and they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. Why don't we throw this on our list? Whereas like Angkor Wat, granted, it was taken over by the French, but it's kind of far removed. Like you have to, I feel like I was in the tuk-tuk for like an hour to get to it.
You were in a tuk-tuk for an hour? By the time you got there, you probably jarred. Like, ah.
I did it like 3 days in a row too.
You were committed to this tuk-tuk ride.
Okay, Angkor Wat is massive. You can't really see it all in a day because it's like a complex of just these giant structures, which to me, it just feels like, if I'm going to say like Angkor Wat versus the Colosseum, and I think the Colosseum suffers from the same thing that the pyramids do. It's right in the middle of the city.
Right. I've never been to that either. So Angkor Wat I was actually wanting to do for my birthday trip, and that has not happened or occurred.
We're going to make it. Look, we could just throw it on this year. I would love to see the Seven Wonders, then go to other places that I think should be a wonder.
Well, they have the modern wonders. What are the modern wonders?
I got to get a list because I can remember a ton. Apparently I remembered all the ancient wonders, but then I'm trying to get the
I mean, because I didn't even know the ancient wonders. The craziest part about this, I think, is just like how many of the wonders were probably in the Middle East, specifically Iraq, Iran area, which we don't really have access to. Because did you remember when they said the Mesopotamian museums that were still in Iraq were then looted and burned down by like ISIS or IS or whichever they were calling it? Well, really, I felt like it was just first world countries going in and trying to taking advantage of the opportunity to take their relics and stuff, because they still had statues there of like half human, half like animal, because they were like really large outside of these museums that they maintained in Iraq.
Oh man, the whole idea of museums. We're gonna get back to Seven Wonders, but museums are. I've started losing my love of going to museums, and I know we've talked about this. That used to be like my favorite thing because it's such a cultural thing. But now it's one of those. It almost feels kind of icky because you go to a museum and you realize that these things are just stolen, like the Benin bronzes that I think are in the one we went to in London.
What was that museum?
The British Museum.
Yes. Brits have everything. They stole everything.
Well, they went through the entire world, looted the best stuff, took it back, and then they won't even give it back to their countries because they're like, we don't think that you can properly preserve it. You're like, it doesn't matter. It's mine. Give it back.
You probably can't properly preserve it, though. Does it retain the value if it's returned to the original country that had it?
It should, because then it forces people to go to those places. It's kind of crazy, like, So you can go to the British Museum and see something from everywhere in the world, but they could easily just make replicas. And if you really want to see like the true Benin, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Is it Benin bronzes?
Is it Benin?
Yeah, the country.
Benin.
Yes.
I don't know. Benin.
Yeah. Well, if you can phonetically write it out, tell us how it's pronounced. But I feel like you should be able to go to that country and actually see their artifacts. So going to the gold museums in Colombia was a cool experience. And granted, obviously a ton of their gold was looted by the Spanish when they were
right.
when they were taken, but the fact that they've still been able to maintain so much, there's about 6 gold museums in Colombia, which tells you how much gold they had.
Because they're actually do they have gold reserves there?
I mean, I don't know if they do anymore. Went to Lake Guatavita in Bogota. It's the basis of the story of El Dorado.
Okay.
What they used to do is when a new leader was ready to, or a new chief essentially, was ready to be called up to that position, they would go cover him in like a gold dust from head to toe, and then you jump in the water. But then other people would like throw in gold as part of their offerings.
Their tribute. Okay.
Yeah. And so when the Spanish came, they kind of combed the river and came up with gold, and they're like, oh, there's treasure here. So they decided that they were going to empty the lake to get to all the gold. But obviously they didn't have the technology, so they literally made the locals into slaves to go carry buckets. And mind you, you have to walk up a mountain to get to this lake, up a mountain and down a mountain. So they're carrying buckets, and they emptied out the lake in order to steal the gold, which is awful because it's just like, talk about erasing history because you're taking the tributes and things like that. You're like, oh.
Can you imagine if you were the person that made the tribute and now you're having to like fish it out?
Yeah, to give it back to another country. So those are the things where you go and you like, you love learning about it, but you also just feel you just feel angry a little bit.
Colonization was a really brutal period for a lot of people. I think it surpasses the haves and have-nots, and it really, really hits like taking advantage of another culture for a lack of understanding or empathy of going in and just conquering. You're just conquering at this point to conquer because you feel like they're inferior or they're weaker.
And the worst thing is that these cultures were usually like fairly friendly to welcoming to visitors, and that's what did them in, which makes you feel like, man, every time someone stepped foot on your land, you should have beheaded every single person and sent the heads back on ships so that people knew not to come to you unless you're coming for a real war.
I mean, it gives you like a whole new appreciation for. I feel like Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, was really a setup of like introducing a Mayan culture that has been overlooked throughout history, but just basically to show that the brutality, because I don't think the Spanish ever got highlighted the way that the British have, and the French never have gotten highlighted, nor the Portuguese have been highlighted for how vicious they actually were.
Oh, I do think that like the American slave trade really kind of, at least as an American, it feels like it took over the entire narrative.
Right.
And so you don't really talk about like, yeah, you're right, the Portuguese or the Belgians, like what they've done.
Right. You know what? It's like if my friend, because it really is to me, it seemed like a lot of people just stayed in their little bubble and they just like survived in their world. Yeah. They didn't go out to conquer. They weren't out there exploring, looking for more. They were just like, okay, this is where we're at and this is how life is. If your friends are like aggressive individuals that are greedy, that's how Europe was back then, in my opinion. Every country got word that there is so much more, and then because your friends are aggressive, inconsiderate, uncaring individuals that decided they want to go out and explore and then take advantage of these people who are just trying to be welcoming, that became your entire being, because some of these people were just existing. I guess they were out here making great tortillas, just trying to live.
Just living happily. I would have to look up what natural resources are in Europe, but it feels like it's just such a resource poor.
Potatoes and cold.
Yeah.
You get snow and potatoes.
I mean, if you're thinking no silver, no gold, no gems, no spices.
No minerals.
Yeah, so they had to go everywhere else in the world to take everything they needed. Right. And eventually it became more than take what you need. It became take it all. It's like
because their quality of life improved.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it would improve when you finally get tasty food.
And somebody
You go
to
from
teach
like
you how to bathe.
straight up plain potatoes, and you're like, wow, I didn't know that turmeric and pepper were a thing.
Imagine if you're throwing shit out your window for your entire life and then you realize that there's a better way of disposing waste.
Since we're talking about the world wonders, I just want to talk about this because this bothers me so much. It's a hot button topic for me. Anytime I hear someone say it, I just get ready to like rip out a throat. When people talk about the pyramids were built by aliens, I think that might be one of the most racist things I've ever heard because we've been to Stonehenge.
Right.
No one knows how they got those rocks to Stonehenge,
right.
But people are willing to admit that white people could get the rocks to Stonehenge, but when black people in Africa, and I'm saying like in Egypt, you think about it, it's the center of civilization as far as taking great minds. You have people coming over from Rome, you have people coming from the greater European region, people from the Middle East who created our entire number system. Of course they had fabulous ideas that probably just got lost in history. But when you see that, you think, oh, aliens had to do that.
You know where it's probably stored, the knowledge of how they did this?
In the library.
In the Vatican.
They just won't tell anyone?
It's in the depths of their vaults.
Oh my
I'm telling you, I think the Vatican probably has the most information on prior societies.
I mean, I would believe it. I mean,
that's why their GDP is so high.
That is why they're
considered a country.
Yeah. But
12 square meters.
So that's something that bothers me. Anytime someone says, well, you know, it could have been aliens. We don't know how it was done. I was like, you know, we were building pyramids. And I say we. I don't know if we're
my
Egyptian.
diaspora,
yeah.
Yes, my historical lineage.
Building pyramids while Europeans were still throwing their feces out the window, and you have to claim that it was
But even
aliens?
that's so true, because if you think about Machu Picchu, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is an expansive network to show you how they built their version of pyramids, because that's Chichen Itza is basically the same.
And I bet you people will say, isn't there some like conspiracy theory that like the markings in Machu Picchu are alien too? Like literally, I bet you if you go to any great work of any person of color, people are like, oh, that had to be extraterrestrials, because people with melanin could never think of something
because
like this.
They were astronomical they were astronomers before that was a thing. If in specifically Chichen Itza, well, actually all of them, they had a thing that tracks the moon cycle, and that was how they knew what cycle it was, when it was time to farm. I mean,
it was ultimately a calendar, because it's
yes.
So isn't like Chichen Itza, it has like 365 sides, which is supposed to calculate the entire year.
Right.
I think they broke it up into months of 20 days. So their calendar was different, but it still tracked the sun. And even on, is it the solstice or the equinox? Probably the solstice. The sun actually lines up perfectly, that it goes up the sliding serpent that's on the pyramid, which is one of the reasons why it's a wonder. You'll go to it and you don't understand it because you're like, oh, it's just a pyramid.
Right.
But there was so much put into it that like one side hits the sun with the equinox, one side hits the sun with the solstice.
Right.
It's
I think you should, when you're doing your trip planning, because we have to figure out what time of year, you maybe try to do it during it's the summer solstice, right? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do want to do that.
Yeah, because that would be, like, it's great to see the world wonder, but also to experience why it's phenomenal would be kind of cool as well.
And just give more background on why things are wonders, because like the Colosseum, I'm not gonna lie, I found it to be a little underwhelming when I saw it. It wasn't until I had like snuck onto that tour and just started following them around and hearing the history that I was like, oh, okay. Because when I first saw it, and we probably talked about this on here before, I went to Italy. I was taking me
you have to watch season 1 and the Rome episode to hear about Lexi's real experience. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it was a whole experience. But as we were driving in, I saw it, and I turned to the driver, because I'm in a van full of people, and I just wish I'd never said this out loud. I was like, oh, is that a replica of the Colosseum? Because it's in the middle of the city, and he kind of looked at me confused, and he's like, that's the Colosseum. I was like, yeah, a replica of it? He's like, that's the Colosseum. I was like, oh. It's a little smaller than I had envisioned, because it's surrounded by buildings that feel like they're all not the same size, but I think it's the statue of Theseus. They're talking about rebuilding that in.
I mean, if Greece could really get it together, Greece has the historical reference of that place is phenomenal. Oh, I did want to mention this on just tracking of the moon and the summer solstice and that kind of thing. The Middle East still does it. They actually still track like Ramadan and their Eids. A lot of their major holidays are still tracked by the moon.
Oh, nice.
So they still have positions that are specifically dedicated to stating when this comes about. Like, it's a real thing there.
Is that why it moves?
Yes. That is why Ramadan moves over, because it's based off of the moon cycle.
Okay.
So I feel like, I'm not sure why up north it didn't go that way. Maybe we should look into the Vikings, because I think because they have one season there. Cold. Cold and slightly cooler. That might be why that stuff didn't make it up there.
I mean, but they made it everywhere else. They were just all over the region, so.
That's why they wanted to escape. I get it. But you know what? Okay, so back to planning this 7 World Wonder Tour in 2023. Because as we're filming this, just for like reference, this is January the 14th. So we're already halfway to the first month of the year. And to get to 7 World Wonders, it's 7 different continents. Or not 7 different continents, but 7 different countries.
Yes. So 7 countries. I figured what I'm going to do is early this year, like March at the latest, I'm going to do a quick like South American trip. And when I say quick, I mean I'm going to take like a month and a half. I want to go to Peru and stay in Lima for a month, and then take the trip to Machu Picchu's in Cusco or Lima. I want to maybe
Cusco.
Okay. So I want to take the trip.
You fly into Lima, go up to Cusco.
Perfect. And I'm going to take the train up. I'm not doing the walk.
Oh, you're not going to do the okay.
Look, if I had told myself that I eventually wanted to go to Machu Picchu, but I needed to hit like some fitness goals, I think at this point I actually would die on the way up due to the lack of oxygen. My muscles would just be atrophying. I don't know.
The elevation.
Yeah.
So the elevation is so high that they actually tell you to get there and adjust, like do the slight adjustment. Yeah,
so I just want to take the train up, wear my fabulous outfit, and if I'm not wearing a fabulous outfit in whatever pictures I put out, just let it go.
I mean, you're not doing the walk. You have to be fabulous.
You're right. So
she's not doing the walk.
I will get a great coat because it's probably cold no matter the season, and get some good pictures, and then take my train back down. And that's going to be my trip to Machu Picchu.
Nice.
We're not...
Are you going to ride one of the little llamas or donkeys?
Oh my gosh, if I can, yes.
Okay.
Who wouldn't want to be... Do you think there are alpacas up there? It's got to be an alpaca, right?
Ooh, that would be fun. Do you think they spit on you, though?
I mean, not if you're behind them.
Where you at? Why do you keep turning, sir?
No, I've had pretty good luck with those. Do you remember when I rode the camel while we were in...
You did do good on the camel. Me and camels, look, they're not gentle creatures. You know what? If I could do Petra again, we did not do the camel ride. I think I was with somebody that was being cheap, and we were like, we're going to just walk it.
Okay, so...
In hindsight, I would have just gotten on the camel and had them take me down. That would have been the Instagrammable moment.
Oh my goodness, right? Especially if you did like the long, like a little flowy dress with a scarf. Okay, so of the 7 World Wonders, which would you want to join me on? Like which, let's say pick 3.
So of the 7 World Wonders, I've only been to 1. I've been to 2 of the 7. So I think I would want to try to catch you on a new one. I would want to do Machu Picchu.
Okay.
And the Colosseum is one? Mm-hmm. I've never been to Italy, so I will say the Colosseum. Okay. If I just did those 2, I think just being realistic about my year and what I'm capable of doing this year, time-wise, I am super time poor. Like there's people who are money poor. I'm time poor because I'm trying not to be money poor. So like literally all my time is making money. So I don't have as much flexibility and freedom as I once had. I hate it. But it's such as life. Italy, and because Lima has been on my, like, I wanted to do Machu Picchu forever.
Okay, so that works. I was gonna say, if you can try going to Jordan again, like, I always think of when we went. What was the mosque that we went to in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, at the Grand Mosque, but wasn't the Grand Mosque?
No, the Grand Mosque is isn't that the Grand Mosque is in
Sheikh Zayed something.
I think it is Sheikh Zayed.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sheikh Zayed.
So it's probably the prettiest mosque in the world. And we just kind of rolled up and we weren't. Oh,
We have to do the Blue Mosque in Turkey.
oh yes. So when we do the Blue Mosque, we're really going to dress for it. But going to Petra could be our redo of the Sheikh Zayed because we weren't ready. We just.
This is true because I actually want to do the Wadi Rums in Jordan as well. Have you seen those?
Mm-mm.
Have you seen like the bubbles that are in the middle of the desert? It's just like being in the middle.
Oh.
Yeah, the
I have
wadis.
seen those.
Yeah, so that's out in Jordan as well.
So that's my thing, is that I figured the Seven World Wonders are a really good launch pad to do other cool things too.
Right.
So like going to Italy, the Colosseum isn't the highlight. What the highlight for me is this time to go back with like actual money, because when I went, I was cash poor. I was time rich and cash poor.
See, you have to give up one. It's one or the other. You're either
Yeah.
going to be cash rich or cash poor,
Yeah.
time rich or time poor.
Because I was making real decisions. I was like, so what experiences can we have? I was like, if we do gelato and we do espresso, we can't have any wine because we also want food. Not just Italian food. We just want to be able to eat.
She said she ate breakfast at her B&B every morning because they gave her
Yeah.
bread and an egg. And she was
Oh, yeah.
stocking the bread away.
Well, because they would give you like 3 pieces of bread, which is obviously like 6 pieces of toast. So I'd have 3 in the morning. Then I'd put the others in my handbag. So during the day, you pull out toast randomly, like 1 bite, put it back, and then I would
fighting
do.
the pigeons. You better not take my lunch.
Well, because then I was doing like a mixture of lunch and dinner, and that's all I was eating while I was there, which means I missed a ton of food. So I did have pizza one day, pasta another day, and then like eggplant parmesan another day, and I don't know what I was eating the rest of it. I guess toast, because I don't even remember.
But you made it. So, okay. In Italy, Jordan is like a whole experience. I would love to do it.
Yeah. So Jordan would be, it's like, to me, that's a marquee trip. That's by itself. It
Okay.
doesn't need anything else to go with it.
Okay. You wouldn't try to do Egypt? Well, it's not a world wonder. Never mind. I keep thinking, it's not a modern day world wonder going.
So I do think that I want to throw in some of the other wonders if I can get to them. But I feel like I would need to see everything I can do in Jordan. Although, if I'm being honest, I would skip out on Egypt and then try and do Turkey instead as part of that trip.
I kind of agree with that. Turkey looks dope. It has the
does.
Blue Mosque that I would really want to do. Cappadocia for the air balloons.
Mhm.
They have those, what is it? Ankara, where it has like those water, like the hot springs that are like
Yes.
leveled. And that's like a full country. You have to move around for that. That's not in one space.
Exactly. So for me, my thing would be do South America. I would want to do a month in Peru and
Okay.
then swing by Brazil and just do Rio. I probably need to research Brazil
Would you do
more.
Bahia?
You know what? My heart has never been called to Brazil. I know that's a very like
Neither of mine, but
kooky way to say it. So for me, like Brazil would be a swing through just so I can get through Christ the Redeemer, and then the harbor of Rio is a natural world wonder, which if I'm being honest, every time I've seen a picture, underwhelming. Like that against I'm just going to put it like this. Here are some natural world wonders. You've got the Aurora Borealis or the Northern Lights, you've got the Grand Canyon, then you've got the harbor of Rio. One of these things is not like the other. I mean, maybe
How did the Panama Canal not make it if that was the
the Panama Canal is an industrial world wonder.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That does make sense. You remember when
Yeah.
the ship turned sideways and blocked it?
And stopped the entire world.
Yes.
We all wondered what happened.
Yes.
So with that in mind, maybe I'll go to Rio, see the harbor, and be like, this is magnificent. I've never seen a harbor like this. But really, I'm going for Christ the Redeemer, and I'm just going to throw on an extra world wonder. But to me, like, pop into Rio, then get out. Then at some point, like, Mexico's is an easy trip, so then you get Chichen Itza. Then you do a separate trip to go to China, and from there, I would actually, like, pop into Beijing, because I've already been, see the Great Wall, maybe go to like Hong Kong or something, just something different.
Oh, I die. I wanted to go to Hong Kong, and then they started those damn protests that lasted forever. So I couldn't even do it. I was going to do a 4-day trip. I thought that was going to be enough.
So this is probably a whole other conversation. But I've been wondering now about some of the countries that I want to go to, whether it's safe to do it, because I kind of feel like after the whole prisoner exchange with Brittany Griner, that they basically held her on the craziest charge and use it as leverage to do a prisoner exchange. If there's some countries that I don't want to go to now because they're looking at that thinking, if we can just hold someone. Granted, I'm not high profile enough to hold.
I was like, who does she think she is? Like, what is she carrying, and why are you carrying it?
No, I'm not carrying anything.
Your paint pot? That Mac paint pot gonna get you.
I feel like they could easily put any charge on anyone to hold you. And I just wonder if they just start randomly holding, like, okay, so we're not a 2-time Olympian WNBA champion, but if they hold like 5 Americans, is that worth a prisoner exchange? And it starts to make you wonder if you have to think about the places that you're going to go. Just a little bit.
I mean, like, I probably wouldn't be popping into Russia right now.
No, I mean, I did have dreams of one time seeing,
Oh, you wanted to do the Siberian train?
I did, but also in St. Petersburg, the
They
colorful
look
building.
so pretty.
Yes.
I wanted to do Sochi. I mean, essentially the F1 circuit has been shut down in Sochi.
Yeah.
That sucks.
No, there's stuff I wanted to see there, and now it's just, I wish I would have gone before, because it's going to be years before I think Americans are going to feel safe going to Russia. Like, years. Well after, if and when, well, when the war ends with Ukraine and, like, the invasion of Ukraine, it's still going to be, like, another 5 to 10 years before I think people are going to, like, yeah, let's go hang out in Russia.
I mean, they were just getting to the point where people were coming after the whole Cold War era. Like, imagine, and that was like 40 years.
Talk about a way to trash any of the goodwill that they did with hosting the Olympics. Can you imagine?
Didn't they do the World Cup too?
Did they do the World Cup?
Was it the World Cup?
The last couple of World Cups have been in...
The Doha one happened.
Okay, so Doha, Brazil...
Oh, that was it, yeah.
Okay.
So it was the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, you put all that money in your infrastructure to kill it. Okay,
Yes.
so back to this travel. You would do, where are we at? So China.
So I would do China, and China would be a quick trip of like hop in, hop out, similar to Brazil, for me to go to Japan. Japan doesn't have any world wonders. I mean, the entire country's a wonder. It actually doesn't have any world wonders of any kind. Like, no natural, no historic.
Really?
But those are the times when you understand that Japan was closed. They had, like, a real harsh military.
Right.
I feel like white people couldn't get in there to see the wondrous things, so it never made the list.
I mean, so then India. Where would you put India?
So India might end up being its own trip. I would probably, maybe go to, like, Cambodia and then, like, hop across to India. That's not, like, a quick flight. I'm saying it like that's a short jaunt. India might just have to be its own week-long vacation.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like getting from China to India is quick either. What is India close to?
Its own space.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a huge country. I mean,
Yes.
it's a huge place. So, because it was 4-hour trip to Goa from Kuwait. Maybe you could do Sri Lanka and wherever where is the Taj Mahal located specifically? Do you know?
Nope.
Yeah. See, I have no desire to go to India.
I have wanted
What's
to
the
do
train thing?
the Darjeeling Express.
Okay.
I do want to do that. And back in the day, I had actually wanted to go to like a monastery, or I guess they'd be called temples in India, but a temple in India and do one of those experiences, like the Jesse Itzler book, Living with the Monks.
Right.
I'd love to do an experience like that in India, but now it's not calling to me as much as it was at the time. So I think I'd kind of hop in, do the train ride, do Taj Mahal, have some really good curry, and then like get on out.
That could be a food tour.
Ooh, yes.
That could, if you had to like say what you wanted to do, I think an Indian cuisine food tour would be pretty dope.
Yeah, so finding different ways to do that. And did that just cover all the world wonders? Who are we missing? Nope, we got them all.
No, we got them all.
Yeah.
It was Machu Picchu. To go over the 7 again, it's Machu Picchu in Peru.
Machu Picchu in Peru, Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, Chichen Itza in Mexico. That's all like a month and a half or 2 month trip of hanging out in Peru for a month, then going to Brazil for a long weekend, like 4 days. We're good. And then going to Mexico for like 4 days, or going somewhere like super cool in Mexico. Then you would do Jordan, and then throw in like Turkey by itself, and then that way you could go to the Blue Mosque. Then you would do the Great Wall in China, and then I would just go to Japan just because. Finally, Italy, and Italy would just be by itself because then you could do Europe or like wine country in Italy. And finally, and my numbers were way off, we're not even at, what was the last one? Petra in Jordan.
You already said that.
Then what's the 7th? Was I at 7?
India.
Oh, yes, then India by itself. You know what? It's not that I forget any of them. It's just when I try to do them, I go in different orders every time and always forget one. So 2023 is my year of wonder.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
Yes.
2023 is the year of wonder.
Yes.
I
So
love it.
we're throwing in as many world wonders as we can of all the kinds, but I have to do the 7 core wonders.
Okay.
The Colosseum in Rome, the Great Wall of China in China, the Taj Mahal in India, Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, Machu Picchu in Peru, Chichen Itza in Mexico, Petra in Jordan. The 7 wonders of the New World is what they're called.
Okay, and then the other list that you're tacking on are the...
If I can, I would like to see maybe the pyramids, just so I can get all the ancient world wonders.
And that's the ancient world wonder, okay.
I would like to see some of the natural world wonders, and living in Nevada, I can very easily just hop to the Grand Canyon. Maybe I can see the Northern Lights this year.
Maybe.
That's a trip that you got to go on with me.
Okay.
You can go to like Iceland,
Okay.
because you've been wanting to do the Blue Lagoon for years.
Yes.
Okay. And then maybe some of the industrial world wonders. I wouldn't mind seeing like the CN Tower in Toronto, or the Panama Canal.
Okay.
You know what? I'm just want to open this one up because I think this is the craziest of all world wonders. I think it's the sewage system in England is a world wonder.
The sewage system, huh?
Yes.
You know why it's a world wonder? Because they were throwing shit out their window. It's a world wonder.
When they found a place to put it, they're like, "Oh my gosh,
This
look
is
at
a
this!"
world wonder. All right. Well,
Yes.
2023, we are going to follow her journey. Make sure you
Yes.
tune in because in addition to our podcast, we will be following it on Instagram and YouTube.
Yes. You can make 2023 your year of wonder. It doesn't even have to be about the world wonders. Just find something that strikes awe in your heart, and it can be all of our year of wonder. So what are your must-see places? Is there any place that you think deserves to be a world wonder that is currently not? Please comment. And then, like, subscribe.
Turn on the notification button. And until next time.
Ciao.
Bye.
That's all for this week. Link up with us on Instagram at Flirting with Travel, or check out flirtingwithtravel.com for itineraries and more travel hacks. Taking off. Love you.